Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to Is America on Easy Mode? Now, America has been, the wealthiest, the strongest militarily for a long time now. It's had a lead on pretty much every other country in most facets for a long time. So, I suppose when you get to that point where you're at the top of the mountain, like the desire to keep pushing and keep moving forward and to cement that number one status can start to decrease a bit, and it kind of allows other countries, potential adversaries like Russia and others to, close that gap because they're trying to get to the number one spot. So this video is, I'm hoping it's going to explain, what's currently going on with America. Like, is it really on easy mode? Like, in terms of the life of the people there or the governments, like what's going on in America just right now. Should be very interesting. By the way, guys, if you enjoy the videos, check out the Patreon, full-length movie reactions, exclusive content, and like and subscribe to the channel, guys. Like the videos, it definitely helps me out. Let's do it.
The United States of America, perhaps the strongest nation on the planet, and they have a presidential election coming soon, where they will elect the person who will rule the country for the next 4 years, and they will fix the country's economy, and they will take down all of its enemies, and they will protect the nation's interests. And this is all possible because the presidential election is the most important thing in how America works, isn't it? This area of the world is one of the most naturally rich in almost everything. The USA has incredible amounts of incredibly cheap food. We all know the stereotypes of the large portions of beige potato products with calorie counts in 6 digits, but that's not far from the truth, and in the grand scheme of things, that's not even a bad thing. The country has over 1.5 million square kilometres of arable land, so much so that the government used to give it away for free. Now let's look at...
Could you imagine that? Free land. If anyone's got some free land, send it my way, please. Please.
A counterexample. Angola is a country whose horrific decades-long civil war decimated its capability to produce food, and now its capital, Luanda, is the most expensive place in the world. By some reports, half a litre of ice cream costs between $17 and $31. But how can that be? How can this place be the most expensive place in the world to live? Transportation makes food, and for that matter, most things, very expensive. Road and rail connections to Angola are, to say the least, not good. There is a single rail connection to a neighbouring country, and that's to the Democratic Republic of Congo, who wouldn't be your first choice, would they? And that railway doesn't go to Luanda, the capital. Instead, food arrives by sea and air from incredible distances, from China, Portugal and the US. That's how the Angolan Häagen-Dazs gets its price label. The US, however...
$17 for a tub of Häagen-Dazs. Forget it. Forget about it.
Has huge population centres right on top of where the food is made. And even where they aren't, the transportation costs are almost negligible because of...
Navigable waterways.
The Mississippi River is the world's longest navigable river. Over 3,000 kilometres of it laid right on top of the food-producing areas. Now you may say, but why is this important? And
I'm guessing because you can move food around quite easily, right?
I'll laugh and say, before continuing with the answer. Short distances by sea are very cheap. You may need to pay for fuel or learn how to manipulate the wind, but you don't have to build the
manipulate the wind.
The sea is, in essence, free. But do you know what's even cheaper than the sea? Rivers are. They're calmer, easier to navigate, and it's much harder to get lost. And in this network of rivers, Kentucky tobacco, Wisconsin cheese, Iowa corn, and Missouri racism can be exported from the home state.
Missouri racism.
And anywhere in the river basin incredibly cheaply and with a couple of small adjustments. But wait, there's more. From Nantucket to the Gulf of Mexico, the world's longest series of barrier islands create natural harbours, protecting commerce and life from the worst weather. From Mobile to Long Island, from Houston to Savannah, this network of islands create another inland waterway, all provided by nature. As of 2016, the largest ports in the world may be Chinese, Singaporean or Dutch, but while these countries were spending incredible amounts of their money and time reclaiming land from the sea to build these ports, or in the case of the Dutch, whole provinces, Americans spent that time reading books, building Panamanian canals, inventing the Cheeto and building the nuclear bomb. All of this free capital means that the US can afford the world's largest military. Not that they even need it for defence though. Here the country's geography comes in handy yet again.
Yeah, I think I watched it in a video that America, because of the way the structure of the country and the two oceans on either side, it makes it really hard to invade.
England's, and later Great Britain's and the UK's navy was the key to its success, and it could only do so by being an island. So after Great Britain united and land wars with Scotland became somewhat of an anachronism, they turned their attentions elsewhere to other continents, and they opened up trade routes with the rest of the world using force. This strength put England on favourable terms in any trade negotiation with any nation, and the island grew wealthy. Other maritime empires like the Portuguese, the Dutch and the Danish kept outposts all around the world for the very same reason. Ever since England had a navy, the island of Great Britain has never been invaded. For all that I've said about water making transport easy, it also paradoxically makes a perfect barrier to invasion. By the English Channel, the UK remained uninvaded in both world wars, but had a...
But why? Why is that? Is it because you can see the enemy coming, I guess, and you can then prepare your defences in advance? Whereas if you share borders with countries and you want to invade the country across the border, it's way easier to cross in, like what we saw with what we're seeing with Russia and Ukraine.
Huge cost. The Channel was enough to prevent land invasion, but not enough to immunise the UK against catastrophic bombing of major cities. But just how vulnerable is the US? Land invasion from the south is damn near impossible. The major settlements on both sides being hundreds of kilometres of inhospitable desert from the border. Invasion would be expensive and not very valuable. But what about Canada? They burnt down the White House in the War of 1812, didn't they? In the early 19th century, things were very different. The Louisiana Purchase had only just taken effect, and the US wasn't in complete control of the Mississippi. Canada was also a lot more compact, not having its vulnerable food and energy producing areas dangled over the continent, and Vancouver was barely a twinkle in the eye of Seth Rogen. Today, Canada is spread incredibly thinly. The US's invasion of British Columbia could take out the country's Pacific capabilities in a long weekend.
Wow.
And this isn't even to mention the interdependence of each country's economy. A Canada-US alliance is the best solution for both sides.
Of course.
So if there's no invasion...
And Canada's huge itself. I think in terms of landmass, it's almost as big as the USA.
From the north or the south, all this leaves is an invasion by sea. Yeah, that's not happening. The UK could only dream about this amount of isolation from Europe. The US's navy is today its power. An invulnerable core means that they have the ability to project power way beyond their borders without even worrying about it. In the 21st century, a president can wage a decade-long two-front war to protect the country's interests, and the average citizen doesn't feel a single thing. The fact that the country even has interests in an impoverished, landlocked Asian nation on the other side of the planet is remarkable. The Navy is important for keeping the world's trade lanes open. If you want to buy a body pillow from Japan, you can do so without even thinking about it. Regardless of what the American politician says, there is nothing special about the average...
Who was it that said the US military is what allows the president to speak softly and carry a big stick? Who was it that said that?
American citizen. The wealth and strength of the United States comes from its geography. So if we have just seen why the United States is so naturally powerful, we will now see why it would take a monumental effort to screw that up. Kim Jong-un, the supreme leader of North Korea, is a medieval king without the crown. He's supreme commander of the army and he can do anything he wants within the laws of physics except commission a realistic portrait. Contrast the President of the United States, which is a fully elected position decided by the people and has one of the largest electoral bases in the world. There is a system called the US government which is put into place either deliberately or by accident, and it provides extreme stability.
I love that I misspelled honor because it had the English spelling for honor, because you guys spell honor Honor, I think.
The president has no direct influence over justice, and for a law to be passed needs hundreds of people in two houses to agree before the president has the power of veto, essentially saying, hell no, what are you all thinking, get this crap off my very expensive desk. A veto is favouring the status quo, and is the last of many hurdles a bill will have to pass before being enacted. And as we've seen before, the status quo is actually very favourable towards the USA. But this series of events doesn't have to occur if the president signs something directly into a law themselves, using an
executive order. I've always wondered, can a president just say, I want an executive order for everybody to get free ice cream for life, and just like that it becomes law? or are there limits?
Executive orders are sort of laws that the president can make directly that don't need the same approval as laws from Congress. As easily as the president can make one, all of those executive orders can be overridden or cancelled completely by the next president if they put their mind to it. And there will be a next president relatively soon because of a little thing called... Whether a president does a good or a bad job, they will have to leave office after a maximum of 8 years, meaning the average American will have close to a dozen heads of state in their lifetime. The amount of damage a single person can do to a country this wealthy is absolutely minuscule, especially when the next president can simply erase most of what you've done. But this might not happen if an extremist gets into office, will it? First past the post voting means that every eligible person gets a single vote for a single candidate, and the winner is the person with the most votes, regardless of whether that's 90% or whether that's 10%. One of the problems with first past the post is that when there are multiple parties that appeal to the same type of person, that weakens the position of that side of the debate. So we have strategic voting, where people don't actually vote for their first preference, but instead for an at least they're not the other party. All mathematical models show that this eventually leads to a two-party system in which each party attempts to grab the median voter while appealing to the respective side of the debate. Now, while this single-dimensional politics does seem to be an inaccurate representation of people's actual opinions and desires, the one thing it does lead to is the most unobjectionable government, the least extreme, and the least likely to overthrow what a country has.
Yeah, because it sort of like leads into the middle, so you just become more of like a centrist rather than having like extreme right, extreme left.
It's going for it. And the country that we're talking about has a lot going for it.
Just in case.
Now, just in case there does manage to be an extremist elected to presidency who gets both Congress and the public on their side, and together they all start the day with a healthy bowl of insanity, and they set out to destroy the country piece by piece, and they manage to do significant damage within 8 years, the country has enshrined in its constitution a little jewel.
I saw that. Did you guys see that?
Designed for moments just like that.
Very, very interesting. Wow. Great video. Interesting video. So it seems that basically the position that America's got itself in, you know, in terms of its financials, in terms of its military, in terms of, you know, just basically every facet, like the political system, like it's extremely strong, and it would take multiple presidents to mess it up, because, you know, each president only has a maximum of 8 years, and then you can undo whatever, you know, the previous president did. It would take maybe like 3 or 4 consecutive presidents like massively messing up to really weaken the country, which I don't think would probably happen because the people wouldn't put that person in, you know, in office. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Like, do you guys think, you guys who are based in the States, do you think America is currently in a strong position compared to maybe 10, 20 years ago? Like, where do you see your country trending? Are you trending up or trending down? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.